My name is Sturla Gunnarsson. I'm the director of Ice Soldiers.
Marvelous. So, can you give us a little bit of a synopsis of what Ice Soldiers is about?
Ice Soldiers is a sci-fi action adventure film set in the Canadian Arctic, and it's about it begins during the Cold War. A plane crashes, and everybody perishes except for three strangely Aryan-looking men in tubes, and they are taken to a nearby base where they rampage, kill everybody, and we move on to 50 years later. And Ice Soldiers is the story of an expedition to recover the bones of these three soldiers who may be these three soldiers who are sort of Cold War genetic experiments. So basically, it's Ice Soldiers is set in the Canadian Arctic. It's about three genetically mutated Russian soldiers run amok.
What drew you to the project?
I thought it would be fun to. It's an amusing premise. Um, uh, I thought it would be fun to shoot a film in the Canadian Arctic, and or to shoot a film set in the Canadian Arctic. I think what appealed to me about it is there's a very strong father-son dimension to the narrative. Um, it has a bit of a Terminator feel to it. Uh, it's the story, the leader of the expedition to recover these bones discovers, of course, that the bones are not bones at all. I don't think I'm spoiling too much. And ultimately becomes one man's quest, trekking across the Canadian Arctic to hunt down and slay his father. I kind of like that.
Yeah, very Oedipal.
Or something like that, anyway.
So I thought what was really interesting about the story was that we've kind of had the Cold War with Russia, and then we've like forgot about it for a good chunk of time. And within that chunk of time, you kind of see that, the story evolve, and it's to present day. And I wanted to know how you felt about the kind of the themes of that story. Do we, I thought it was a little bit thematically interesting that it was sleeping for so many years, but it was still there, So was that something that had, was something that had come to your thoughts when you were doing the story as well?
The Cold War?
Yeah, and just kind of updating that story of it, or bringing it to present day.
Well, it's an old sci-fi trope. It's the monster story. It's alive. We've seen it 100 times. What I liked about this was that it has this kind of retro feeling at the beginning. It starts in the past, with people kind of making futuristic experiments. And then it moves forward into the present, and those futuristic experiments wake up in the future. And they're kind of turned on by it. They like the hip hop, they love the technology. These guys could live in the 21st century. It works for them.
Yeah, there was a lot of funny elements with that. I really did respect the fact that they enjoyed rap, and Russian rap at that.
Yes. Yeah, I had never, well, this sort of Russian gangster rap. It's pretty cool. I'd
Yeah.
never heard it before.
So tell me a little bit about bringing Adam Beach into the film. It was a really nice surprise. Almost, I don't know, I think he was about 40 minutes in before we got this lighthearted, tracker as he is, with a lot of comedy to him. So tell me about kind of bringing him on and kind of updating that character.
Well, it's kind of oops, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the Adam Beach's character is kind of a riff on the old Hollywood Indian, except it's a very modern take on that character. So, he had a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun with kind of playing with the conventions, the sort of convention around the all-knowing sage, native person. he plays it with a sense of knowingness and self-awareness. So, I kind of like that. I liked Adam very much. He's a lot of fun to work with. In retrospect, I wish we'd have introduced him a little earlier in the movie because he brings so much kind of heart and humor to the whole thing.
Yeah, but I like that as well. It was like, when Norm used to walk in to Cheers and everybody would be like, Norm, there was that kind of a moment where he came onto the screen and was like, it's Adam Beach and he's funny and that's awesome.
Well, yeah, and it's like, the big chase scene, it's a riff on the old cowboys and Indians, right? It's like, except instead of horses, it's a snowmobile, but there he is in his buckskin jacket shooting at the back of the snowmobile.
And you shot, was it in Sudbury you shot, or north of Sudbury, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we shot near Sudbury. All the wilderness stuff was shot on the Whitefish First Nations Reserve, which is near Sudbury. It's quite beautiful. The Arctic stuff was all shot on the slag heaps around the mines because, of course, there are hundreds of acres of flat land denuded of trees and hills and everything else. So it looks like tundra once you digitally once you digitally get rid of the what's on the horizon. So Sudbury, around Sudbury, a little bit north of there, is where most of it was shot.
What was it like shooting in the? I mean, you're kind of used to dealing with more extreme, weather circumstances.
I mean, we shot it in February, March, in northern Ontario. It was quite beautiful. It was, it wasn't. I think the weather was maybe in the -20s most of the time. But it's a snow film. That's everybody was prepared for that. You wear layers of clothing. Most of us found it pretty exhilarating. It's like boys' own adventure. You get to tramp around out in the snow all day long, and you got all these snowmobiles and toys to play with, and you're doing an action adventure film that that you don't really have to take too seriously.
Sounds like a lot of fun then.
It was a lot of fun.
Ice Soldiers comes out this Friday in Canadian theaters, and we'll keep our audiences posted, and we would appreciate if you kept the Canadian Film Review posted on the things you do in the future as well.
I will do. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.